Hi everyone, my name is Anidas Gupta. I'm the CEO of WRI, and this is an interview of the role of global philanthropy in climate. We are very pleased to have Larry Kramer here,
Thank you.
the president of William and Flora Hewlett Foundation from now on, which is one of the 22 philanthropies that come together to fund the methane reduction program. So we're going to talk about this effort globally. Hewlett Foundation has been a leader for a long time in this area in climate. And Larry, this week, US and EU announced 100 countries coming together across sector to reduce methane. Tell us about it.
So it's actually, I think we're up to 107 countries. And
Is it seven already? Okay.
And still counting. So I think we're hoping to see more join. And it was an initiative led by the Biden administration to get countries to agree to a pretty fast-track, dramatic reduction in methane that they wanted philanthropic support for. Largely because if you want to do it fast track, you need to be able to deploy money quickly to help countries do various different things. That's difficult for governments to do, but something that philanthropy can do. So we put together a fund. Right now it's up to about $330 million, but I hope and expect it'll continue to grow. That's for the first 3 years only, so that we can stay in this for the long haul.
This flexibility you talked about, Larry, that's critical here to get things going faster. What will the funds fund? Where will it go to? NGOs? Will you set up a resource center?
So we will create a methane hub that'll be staffed and develop a broad strategy with all of the other funders. But the idea is to create, in classic form, nimble, flexible funds that can go where it's needed. So my expectation is we'll be funding in different countries. We'll be funding different things in different countries depending on what their situation is and what their needs are. Some of the funding may go to directly support government. Some of it will support NGOs to help achieve some of the goals that the government has set for itself. Some of it may go, across the board. There'll be feasibility studies will be necessary. There'll be research. There'll be monitoring and working with some of the major NGOs that have been in this field to help track and identify sources and so on. And so that's the whole idea, is to really be able to be quick and flexible and innovative. The other thing, I think, in some of the countries we expect we'll have to do advocacy work to help support the government against pushback from some sectors. We want to raise ambitions. The pledge is great. It's 30% by 2030, but we can do more. We know with existing technologies we could probably get to 45% by 2030. So, where we can help governments see that they can do more and better, we'll try and do that, as well as trying to bring in still more governments.
It is fantastic. All the NGOs are behind us right now. Larry, share with the audience, why now? Why is philanthropy, the governments, private sector coming together at this moment?
So of course, methane has obviously been around for a long time, and there have been some far-sighted NGOs and funders who have seen the problem all along. I think two things changed it now, though. One was the sixth assessment, which really highlighted both the extent to which methane had contributed to current warming, and so how fast-track reduction of it would be both adaptation and mitigation. So by reducing the pace of warming, you're going to help a lot of people. And then was the Biden EU diplomatic initiative, which changed the opportunity by getting a whole lot of governments to actually make a commitment where they need help to achieve it.
And get real momentum.
Yes,
as you said, it's 107. So, Larry, if you might, let's get a little nerdy of this. There are two big sectors here, oil and gas sectors, which is kind of, we know what kind of solution you need to pursue, and the ag sector, where we know some of it, in rice, for example. Some we need to know more about, feed, for example. How would this fund go about exploring, existing solution plus new solutions?
Yeah. So our sense is, first, even in the ag sector or in the wastewater sector, we have solutions now that we can begin with. We don't have full solutions in those areas, and one of the things I'm sure we'll be supporting are innovative efforts to actually find the necessary solutions, so those may be a couple years down the line. So our hope is to be able to support that as well as the implementation of existing solutions, both in the sectors where we, as you say, oil and gas leakage prevention, and where we can really achieve, not just achieve it, by the way, one of the really remarkable things about methane reduction is it's cost beneficial. We're not talking about raising costs. So it's really just overcoming inertia to get private industry to do things that are actually beneficial for them as well as for the planet.
And it's measurable.
And yes, well, now it is, and identifiable. So again, a lot of funders ahead of us and NGOs ahead of us have put us in a position where we can make some real progress because of the satellites, carbon mapper, the EDF work. So we're really in a position to do more than we could have a couple years ago.
And the advocacy organization, the environmental advocacy, we are playing such a big role here at this COP. Would they be funded, especially the countries that are more impacted in this?
So certainly advocacy is going to be a the neat thing is you have the commitment that creates the opportunity, but you still need the full suite of services available. So you're going to need technical assistance, you're going to need advocacy, you're going to need policy work, all of those things. And again, our hope is the funding that we're putting up can provide all those things in the leveraged way that philanthropy does. I say we're not fully funding any of these things. We can't. We don't have that kind of money, but we can help get rid of obstacles, contribute, get the balls rolling, and do the things that are necessary.
I mean, I do think this volume of money question, I think 330 million is one of the biggest funds put together for this, right? But the problem from the philanthropy, the problem is it's much bigger. So what is your sense, Larry, about bringing in others and what the scale, talk about the scale of funds.
So we know we need more than $330 million, $328 million to be exact. It's a start, and that's just for the first 3 years. So part of it in terms of the role philanthropy can play is, 3 years should be a proof of concept time, and we expect to begin, even now, to continue attracting additional funding in. You never know exactly how much can the field absorb, how much does it actually need. We started with a kind of ballpark notion of $1 billion over 5 years for philanthropy, and I don't think it's unreasonable if we're being effective to get there. But the key is the leverage that provides. I mean, really you need billions and billions of dollars to achieve this. One of the things we expect to do is to partner with development banks and other DFIs where they do have much more funding to leverage, but to help make sure that money is used most effectively.
It's like seed capital. All of them are here, so you can maybe...
We've had some good conversations already.
Talk to them. Larry, before we end, I just, this is like the almost end of the first week. Today is Thursday. What's your mood right now? How put this in perspective.
Sure. So I'm actually pretty optimistic for a whole bunch of reasons. So, if you think about it, we came out of 2015, 2016 with a massive amount of momentum, and things felt great. And it got slowed down, not just in the US, but globally by the Trump election. And so getting things restarted has taken some effort, and we're just at the very beginning of that, but you can feel it happening. So there's a kind of, I think, almost public misperception being created that because we haven't 100% solved the problem at this COP, it's a failure. But I feel exactly the opposite. There's so many good things that are happening. I mean, I'm really proud of this methane pledge, which I think is one of the bigger, more concrete things to happen. But the other commitments that are being made by so many organizations, by banks, by private sector, by finance institutions, and by governments, again, it feels like one of those moments where we're at the beginning of a real push forward on progress. And, so I actually feel pretty optimistic, and I'm excited to go out and start to work on all of these things.
That's great. And all of you who are not here at COP and listening to this, I share with Larry, I think the mood is positive. And this methane pledge that you heard, 107 countries, 30% reduction, philanthropy coming together, business coming together with countries, is one of the really real and significant things that's already happened in this last few days. And we are looking forward to more such things happening. Larry, thank you very much for joining. Thank you everyone for listening. And thanks. Good job.